What is up, guys? It is Jacob from QuadHunting, and today we are talking about the Pro Bowl. Now, back in the summer, I made a video. It was called five players that can make the Pro Bowl for the first time, I believe, something along those lines. Link in the description. And basically, I talked about five players I thought could make the Pro Bowl for the first time, and they were Sam Martin, Theo Riddick, Darius Slay, Travis Swanson, and there was one more who obviously didn't make it. But only one of my predictions came true, and Darius Slay did make the Pro Bowl. It was announced that a couple days ago Darius Slay is in the Pro Bowl. His league-leading 7 interceptions is a huge reason why, and it's really nice to see Darius Slay get some of that recognition finally, and I'm very happy about Slay getting that spot. But there have been some, ever since the Pro Bowl results came out, I've seen a lot of Lions fans were complaining and moaning about players who didn't make the team. So I'm going to walk through the ones who didn't make the team and the ones that I thought should have, and then a couple ones that people thought should have made the team that I agree with being left off the team. So we're going to start off with the quarterback position. A lot of people believe Stafford should have made it, and I do agree. I believe Stafford should have made it because NFC-wise, he ranks top 3 in most stats. So, and to keep him out of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFC is just insane. He'll get there just because of one of the guys, Carson Wentz, is hurt and is out. So there's that. And he won't be able to play there. But I'm going to walk through the stats of the players they selected and then Stafford's stats as well through 14 games this season because it is the 22nd. So the week 16 games haven't happened yet. Hopefully I'll have this out soon. So Carson Wentz, I believe for sure, should make it. His stats are just insane this year. He's completing 60% of his passes for 3,296 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He has a rating of 101.9 QB rating. That is insane. He is balling out, and after last year, I would not have predicted him to play this well. So Carson Wentz, if he had not gotten hurt, he definitely deserved to be the starter in the Pro Bowl. I wholeheartly am behind that selection. Another quarterback, it was Drew Brees. I'm again behind the selection. He threw 71% completion for 3,850 yards, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. His touchdowns are way lower than Wentz or the other two we're going to talk about, but his interceptions are way down. His completion percentage is above 70, and he's got 104 QB rating according to the NFL, not ESPN's QB rating. So, and he's gotten the Saints back in that crowded NFC South. He has gotten those Saints back up on top, and he's an ageless wonder. Him and Tom Brady, I honestly don't believe either of them will stop anytime soon. Now, the one person I would have replaced with Stafford is Russell Wilson. And I guess that's mainly because, last week with the Seahawks getting destroyed by the Rams, I think that helps. But looking across his stats, they're just not that amazing. There's some that are great, but otherwise they're just. He's thrown 61% completion for 3,669 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. He's got the highest interceptions out of the 3 voted in, and higher than Stafford even, for a 94.1 QB rating. I don't want to say he got in by name. That's not a bad stat line. Don't get me wrong. That's a good stat line. If any quarterback put up that stat line, it's on a good team. Their team is going to be successful. But when you compare his numbers, his 61% completion percentage to Stafford's at 66.3. Russell Wilson has, we're going to say 3,700 yards. Stafford has almost 4,000. He's at 3,920. He has more touchdowns. He has the 30 touchdowns. Stafford has 25. He has 11 interceptions. Stafford has 9. The interception number is lower. And then you look at his QB rating. It is solid 5 points lower than Stafford's. Yeah, I guess it's kind of put Russell in or put Stafford in. You could pick either or. And I guess it's kind of going to become a moot point when Stafford probably gets in anyways as an alternate. So he's already been voted as an alternate. I wish they would make that list readily available and easy to find, but they didn't. But I know Stafford was named as an alternate for the Pro Bowl, and he'll probably make it just based off of the injury to Wentz. So I I think I would have put Stafford in over Russell Wilson, and yeah, it's kind of probably a little homerish, but I mean, Stafford has a better completion percentage, less interceptions, more yards, and a better QB rating. Yes, those touchdowns probably helped get Wilson in, but I don't know. And you got to remember that the voting was not done until after Russell Wilson had that bad showing against the Rams. But this is not the most egregious decision made by the fans, and fan voting's broken anyways. I'll get into that later. The most egregious snub comes from the wide receivers. So the wide receivers that got voted in are Julio Jones, Adam Thielen, Michael Thomas, and Larry Fitzgerald. And Adam Thielen, that's huge. I'm really glad he made it. I was pretty, when he comes out of nowhere, I didn't really know him much before this year, and to see him come out of nowhere and make the Pro Bowl, that's great. He had 83 catches for 1,191 yards, averaged 14.3 yards a reception, and had 4 touchdowns. The ones I think the fans voted based off yardage in here, because that's pretty much the only thing I could find in common, because you didn't even have the number one touchdown reception guy in this group. It was all based off of the yardage. Julio Jones got in with the 76 receptions, 1,215 yards, averaged 16 yards a catch, and had 3 touchdowns. Yeah, I talked about Thielen. Michael Thomas, who has been playing pretty great too this year too. 94 catches for 1,085 yards, averaged 11.5 yards a catch, and had 5. The one I believe got in based off name recognition alone, and that pains me to say this because I love him, is Larry Fitzgerald. 92 catches for 982 yards, 10.7 yards a catch, and he had 5 touchdowns. When you compare those numbers to Marvin Jones coming in with 54 catches, so it's 38 catches less than Larry Fitzgerald. He has 970. He's only 12 yards behind with those 38 catches, with 38 less catches. He's averaging 18 yards a catch and 8 touchdowns. He has more touchdowns than any of the wide receivers that were voted in. That's the biggest snub out of this whole thing, out of the whole Pro Bowl, was Marvin Jones not making it into the Pro Bowl and Larry Fitzgerald making it over him. Like I said, I love Larry. I know that's name recognition, though. His stats are not crazy. They're not 5 touchdowns. That's not. I mean, you look at everyone: 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns. Marvin Jones has 8. He has more than all of those guys, and he still didn't make the Pro Bowl. A lot of fans. That's the one I really feel like got left out of the Pro Bowl and left off the Pro Bowl roster, was Marvin Jones. I believe he definitely should have made it. A lot of fans then were also saying that Golden Tate should have made it. I feel like Golden Tate could have fit right in. If you would have put him in, you would have probably pulled Fitz out. He had 82 catches for 885 yards, 10.8 yards a catch, and 4 touchdowns. I mean, his stat line, that I can understand keeping Tate off just with his touchdowns not being as impactful in scoring wise, but you look at Tate's his run after catch, it's the best in the league. It's always the best in the league, and he needs to get props more for that. They always talk about it on TV, but you never I guess he is getting props, but I don't know. The Golden Tate and Marvin Jones, I believe, both had a case. Marvin Jones, I think, had a better case than Tate, but both of them could have fit in there with their stat lines, which is the crazy thing. There wasn't really much else. I know TJ Lang is named as an alternate, and I hate trying to grade offensive line because it's not what I pay attention to when I watch, for the most part, unless it's a run play. So I can't really speak much to that because one that I am another one that I believe was another snub was safety Glover Quinn. The one they selected were Earl Thomas, Landon Collins, and Malcolm Jenkins, and Tate had a better stat line across the board than all 3 of those guys. He had the least amount of tackles with 69. Malcolm Jenkins was tied with him for 69. Earl Thomas had 71, and Landon Collins just balled out and had 103. It means he's all over the place. Thomas, Collins, and Jenkins all had 2 interceptions, while Tate had 3. They combined did not have as many forced fumbles as Tate. Tate had 3, Thomas had 1, and Collins had 1. And Landon Collins had 2 fumble recoveries, Tate had 1. Tate has the better stat line. Yes, it's less tackles, but he's been making more impactful plays. He's gotten more interceptions than all those guys, and more forced fumbles. He's getting the ball. He's being a playmaker, and those guys aren't. Their numbers are not as great as Quinn's. Quinn and Marvin Jones definitely should have made it. Quinn was one of my. I think he's made the Pro Bowl though, so I don't think he was in the video that he made it, because it would. I think he's made the Pro Bowl already. So that's mainly the two that I thought definitely should have made it, were Marvin Jones and Glover Quinn. They definitely had the stat lines to get in, and at that point I think they just got left off by people looking purely at the tackles, or that were looking at fan vote, or just voting for their own teams. And that's why the fan vote just needs to go away. It's not you're putting in players who aren't as good and aren't playing as good this year just because they're on your team, or because they have they have more tackles, so vote for them. I know it's the Pro Bowl and it doesn't really matter. It's not a huge deal, but it matters to these players because they're making a big paycheck off of this. It came out that Darius Slay, because he made the Pro Bowl, is making $550,000 extra for getting voted into the Pro Bowl. That's $500,000 extra because he's gotten voted in. So, it's big. It actually means something to these players. They get more money. I know some people like Tom Brady are just like, I don't care. I don't need the money. I don't want to go play. Still, some of these players who don't have the name recognition like a Darius Slay has yet, or a Glover Quinn, two guys that are arguably in the top 5 of their positions, top 10 maybe for Slay, just because there's so many good corners. I think Slay, though, bumped into the top 5 this year. For Glover Quinn and Slay to be both, I believe they're both top 5 in their position, and you don't see the vote for that for Glover Quinn. He's had a better year than every one of the other guys that were voted into the Pro Bowl on the NFC side. So that's the two big snubs, in my opinion. Moving over to kicker, a lot of Lions fans were upset that Matt Prater didn't make it. Prater's numbers were 27 for 31 so far this season for 87% field goal rate, which is good. I'll take that any day of the week. And he's made 7 of 10 over 50, which is incredible. He's 70% over 50-yard kicks. So it's definitely worth putting in the Pro Bowl. But Greg Zuerlein had such a great year this year. 38 field goals on 40 attempts for 95% completion. I'm putting Zuerlein in over Prater, and I love Prater. I'm one of the biggest Prater fans. I always say, if I have 2 kids, one of their names is going to be Hansen after Jason Hansen, and the other one's going to be Prater after Matt Prater. So I love Prater, but you gotta put Zuerlein in this. You have to. And even one person I'd put still above Prater is Robbie Gould. He's 36 for 38 this season. That's another 95%. Both those guys kicked more field goals than Prater and connected on more of them. So they've connected on more field goals than Prater's attempted. So I'd put both of those guys in before I'd put Prater in. But Zuerlein definitely deserves it. I would have put Gould in next, and then Prater definitely behind them. The last one that a lot of Lions fans were hoping would make it and didn't was Jamal Agnew for the return team, for the returner. I don't believe that Farrell Cooper is a bad call. I believe that was the right call there. And that's basically because he has the kick return stats. Agnew does not, and I think that's more because they don't want him coming out of the end zone. He's only had 11 kick returns for 196 yards. He's only averaging 17.8 yards a return. So if he's coming out of the end zone, he's not getting very far, which is not that great. Where Cooper is at 30 kick returns for 45 yards and averaging 28.2 yards a kick return. And he's got a kick return touchdown in that as well. So I have no problem with Cooper there. Punt return, Agnew had better stats there. In 3 less returns, he had 26 more yards. He averaged a full 2.6 yards average on the punt returns, and he has, of course, the 2 punt returns, while Cooper had none. I am not very upset about that one. I mean, yeah, I think that's just pulling teeth at that point and which one you want to pick. Both had great seasons, and while my fandom probably would have put Agnew in, looking back, I'm like, it's not that big of it's a big deal that he's not getting not getting the money, but it's not such a big deal when you're losing to a guy who also had a great year. Yes, he had 1 less touchdown overall, but he had the stats between the kick return and the punt return to look great, while Agnew just has the punt return. So I'm not really upset about that one. like I said, the ones I was upset about were Marvin Jones having more touchdowns than any of those receivers voted in, and Glover Quinn having more interceptions, forced fumbles than any of those guys, and not making it. Had more impact plays. Goes for both Jones and Quinn. I mean, Golden Tate, yeah, you're just pulling straws at that point on who's getting in. But I believe Larry Fitzgerald, he got in on name recognition. I don't like saying that, but I believe that's more of the case. Yeah, I could be pulling at that too. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Pro Bowl. The Lions, anyways. Lions part of the Pro Bowl. I'm not going to go in depth on the rest of the Pro Bowl roster because, like I said, it doesn't really matter much. The fans don't really care too much about it. I don't have to vote for these people, and enough for me to make a video saying why Stafford, Marvin Jones, and Glover Quinn should have made it in. But yeah, I guess I don't know. I was just polling for content. I was like, well, I can make a video on that. So, anyways, if you like it, go ahead, leave a like down below. Let me know what you think. Am I wrong saying Larry Fitzgerald is a name recognition vote only? I mean, his stats are good. What do you think about Russell Wilson and Stafford? Who do you think should have made that last quarterback spot? Do you think Glover Quinn should have got in? Am I wrong on Prater and Agnew? Did they deserve to make it in over the guys that got voted in? Let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button next to that like button that you're also going to hit. Yeah, you're going to hit it. And I will see you guys all next time.